Tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from and at what time, so I can get to know you better. To support the channel for free, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. We walk past them every day, ancient giants standing in silent testament to the passage of time. We see them as mere landscape, static and unchanging. But what if I told you that beneath their stoic bark lies a world of intense drama, sophisticated communication, and profound intelligence? What if the forest floor is not just soil and roots, but a bustling information superhighway? Today, we journey deep into the woods to uncover the astonishing hidden society of trees, a world far more complex and alive than you ever imagined. This is the secret life of trees. In the heart of the Caucasus, where mountains scrape the heavens and ancient traditions run as deep as the valleys, the Kingdom of Georgia was a realm forged in fire and faith. By the 12th century, it was a regional power, a Christian bastion, standing resilient against the vast Islamic empires surrounding it. This strength was not accidental. It was the hard-won legacy of Tamar's great-grandfather, King David IV, known to history as the Builder. David had inherited a fractured land, a vassal state, paying tribute to the great Seljuk Empire. Through brilliant military campaigns and profound administrative reforms, he had expelled the Seljuks, unified the Georgian principalities, and established a kingdom that stretched from the Black Sea to the Caspian. He built not just fortresses and cathedrals, but a national identity, a golden dream of a powerful, united Georgia. This was the inheritance, the immense political and spiritual capital that flowed through the veins of the Bagrationi dynasty. However, the dream was fragile. After David's death, the kingdom faced constant pressure. The nobility, the powerful feudal lords, whose own ambitions often clashed with the crown's, were a persistent internal threat. Externally, the Seljuk successor states still lurked at the borders, waiting for any sign of weakness. Tamar's father, King George III, spent his reign in a near-constant state of warfare and political maneuvering to hold David the Builder's creation together. He was a capable warrior, but faced rebellions and conspiracies, including a major uprising by the nobles in 1177. It was a world where a king's strength was measured in his ability to command armies and sire strong sons to carry on the fight. In this fiercely patriarchal landscape, the birth of a daughter, Tamar, in 1160 was a complex event. While celebrated, it presented a looming crisis of succession. There was no precedent for a woman to rule Georgia in her own right. The kingdom, the legacy of the builder, the very survival of the nation, now rested within this single, seemingly delicate seed. Contained within her was the potential for greatness that could rival her ancestors. But first, she would have to survive the storm that her very existence promised to unleash. The seed of the Bagrationi dynasty was not left to chance. It was carefully cultivated. From her earliest years, Tamar was immersed in the world she was destined to lead. Her education was far more than the customary aristocratic tutelage for a princess. She was schooled in theology by the highest clergy of the Georgian Orthodox Church, grounding her in the faith that was the bedrock of her kingdom's identity. She studied the philosophies of the ancient Greeks, the histories of great empires, and the intricate arts of diplomacy and statecraft. She spoke several languages and was trained not merely to be a queen consort, but a ruler. Her father, George III, scarred by the nobles' rebellion of 1177 and acutely aware of the precariousness of his line, made a decision that was both radical and revolutionary. He would not wait for his death to secure his daughter's future. He would make her future the present. In 1178, in a move that stunned the powerful feudal aristocracy, George III declared his teenage daughter Tamar his co-ruler and heir. This was the moment of germination, where potential broke through the soil of tradition. The coronation ceremony was an event of immense symbolic power. Inside the grand Svetitskovli Cathedral, the spiritual heart of Georgia, Tamar stood beside her father. She was crowned not as a queen consort, but as a Meipe, the Georgian word for monarch, a term that was linguistically genderless, but had, until that day, exclusively meant king. By bestowing this title upon her, George was unequivocally declaring her his equal and his successor, a sovereign in her own right. The nobles were forced to swear fealty not just to their aging king, but to this young woman. While they bent the knee, their minds were undoubtedly racing, calculating, and plotting. For the next 6 years, Tamar ruled alongside her father. It was an invaluable apprenticeship. She sat in council, signed decrees, met with foreign envoys, and learned the delicate and often brutal dance of medieval politics under his direct guidance. George III was not just securing his dynasty, he was actively forging his successor, preparing her for the inevitable day she would have to stand alone. In 1184, the protective shadow of King George III was gone. He died, leaving his daughter, Tamar, as the sole, undisputed, yet profoundly vulnerable monarch of Georgia. At just 24 years old, she was now the sun of her kingdom, but a powerful faction of nobles immediately sought to cast a long shadow over her authority. They had tolerated her co-rule under the watchful eye of her formidable father, but a lone woman on the throne was an opportunity they could not resist. This was her first great test, a political trial by fire. The opposition was led by the kingdom's finance minister, Kutlu Arslan, an influential and ambitious figure who represented a bloc of the aristocracy. They did not seek to depose her outright. Their plan was more insidious. They proposed a fundamental restructuring of the government. They demanded the creation of a new council, a Karavi, which would be composed of nobles and would hold supreme legislative and judicial power. In their vision, the monarch would be reduced to a mere figurehead, a rubber stamp for the decisions made by this new aristocratic assembly. It was, in essence, an attempt at a constitutional monarchy, centuries ahead of its time, designed entirely to strip the young queen of her inherited power. Tamar found herself in an impossible position. To refuse was to risk open civil war against the most powerful men in her kingdom. To accept was to surrender the absolute authority her great-grandfather had fought so hard to establish. Her ascent had become a desperate race for the sun, a struggle for the light of true sovereignty. Initially, she played for time, engaging in diplomacy. But when Kutlu Arslan and his faction grew bolder, occupying the palace grounds, Tamar demonstrated the steel resolve that would define her reign. She ordered the arrest of the rebellion's leader. This single decisive act sent a shockwave through the nobility. Yet, she followed this show of strength with a masterful display of political wisdom. She did not execute her opponents. Instead, she released them and entered into negotiations, skillfully dividing her opposition and offering concessions that preserved the core of her royal authority. She won, not just through force, but through shrewdness, consolidating her power and proving to all that she was no one's pawn. Having secured her throne from political challengers, Tamar now faced a different kind of pressure from her court and clergy: the matter of marriage. The kingdom needed an heir to secure the dynasty, and the nobles, still hoping to exert influence, insisted on a husband who could also serve as a military commander. They saw in marriage another avenue to control their queen. Despite Tamar's own reservations, she was pressured to accept their candidate, Yuri Bogolyubsky, a Rus's prince living in exile among the Kipchaks. On paper, he seemed a suitable choice, a man of royal blood and reputed military prowess. The reality, however, would prove to be a disaster, a personal trial that would forge Tamar's reign into an unshakable pillar. The marriage, which took place around 1185, was a catastrophe from the start. Yuri, also known as George of Rus, revealed himself to be not a noble warrior, but a brutish, drunk, and deeply unpleasant man. His behavior was scandalous, and his military leadership was incompetent. He clashed violently with Tamar's refined, intelligent, and pious nature. The union was loveless and politically fruitless. For 2 years, Tamar endured the marriage, but she was not a woman to suffer indignity in silence. In an act of astonishing boldness for a 12th century female monarch, she decided to end it. In 1187, she publicly divorced Yuri, citing his immoral behavior, and had him stripped of his titles and exiled from the kingdom, laden with wealth to ensure he would stay away. This was a stunning declaration of her personal and political autonomy. She had bent to her noble's will once, and she would not make the same mistake again. But Yuri was not content to fade into obscurity. A year later, backed by a powerful faction of disgruntled Georgian nobles who saw him as a tool to unseat Tamar, he returned with an army and launched a full-scale rebellion. The kingdom was plunged into civil war. This was the moment of truth. Tamar's loyalist armies, led by the brilliant general Zachariah Mkargadzeli, met the rebels in battle. They decisively crushed Yuri's forces, and he was exiled once more. When he tried to rebel a second time, he was defeated again, this time for good. Through this crucible of a failed marriage and civil war, Tamar emerged stronger than ever. She had proven she needed no man to rule or to defend her realm. The trunk of her reign was now forged in steel. Like a colossal ancient tree, the kingdom of Georgia under Queen Tamar drew its extraordinary strength not from its visible canopy, but from a complex, unseen network of roots. This was the hidden brain of her administration, a sophisticated web of institutions, loyalties, and power dynamics that she inherited and masterfully cultivated. At its core was the Darbazi, the Royal Council, a formidable body of the kingdom's most powerful figures, high-ranking clergy, military commanders, and the heads of the great noble houses. This was not a passive advisory board. It was a political arena where the fate of the nation was forged, and Tamar, from the very beginning of her co-rule with her father, had to learn to navigate its treacherous currents. The roots of the nobility, the Tavadi and Aznauri, ran deepest. These powerful aristocratic families were both the bedrock of the kingdom's military and administrative strength and its greatest potential threat. Their ambitions were a constant force that Tamar had to channel and control. An early and critical test came from the faction led by her finance minister, Kutlu Arslan. He demanded the creation of a separate legislative body, the Karavi, which would have stripped the monarch of significant power. Tamar's response was a showcase of political acumen. She had Arslan arrested, quelling the immediate rebellion, but then engaged in careful diplomacy with his supporters. She conceded some ground, elevating the role of the Darbazi, but ultimately preserved the supremacy of the crown. This was the hidden brain at work, a strategic, calculating intelligence that knew when to use force and when to negotiate. Beyond managing personalities, she strengthened the institutional roots of the state, overseeing the codification of laws and the formalization of the court system. This ensured that the kingdom's stability was not solely dependent on her personal authority, but was embedded in a resilient, organized structure. Her reign was a testament to the understanding that true power is not merely wielded, but grown and nurtured within the deep, often invisible soil of political and social structures. In the deep forests of history, kingdoms can exist in isolation. But Tamar's Georgia was different. It was the central hub of a vast, wood-wide web, a subterranean network of communication, diplomacy, and influence that connected the Caucasus to the wider world. These were the quiet, constant conversations that defined Georgia's place among nations. Tamar's first marriage to the Rus's prince, Yuri Bogolyubsky, was an early, albeit fraught, attempt to extend this network northward. While the union was a personal and political failure, ending in Yuri's banishment, his subsequent attempts to reclaim his position by force tested the kingdom's communication and defense systems, which proved robust. The true masterstroke of her marital diplomacy was her second union with the Alan prince, David Soslin. This was far more than a marriage, it was a strategic merger. It secured Georgia's volatile northern frontier and brought a brilliant military strategist into the heart of the royal family, creating a partnership that would lead Georgia to its greatest military triumphs. Beyond these formal alliances were the constant, subterranean conversations of statecraft. Georgian emissaries were a familiar sight in the courts of the Seljuk Atabegs of Azerbaijan, the Shahs of Shirvan, and the Byzantine successor states. They negotiated trade agreements, gathered intelligence, and subtly spread Georgian influence, weaving a web of connections that enhanced the kingdom's security and prosperity. Perhaps the most dramatic manifestation of this network was the creation of the Empire of Trebizond in 1204. As the Fourth Crusade tore apart the Byzantine Empire, Tamar seized the opportunity. She provided military support to her relatives, Alexios and David Komnenos, enabling them to establish a new state on the southern coast of the Black Sea. This was a geopolitical triumph, creating a friendly Christian buffer state that protected Georgian interests and secured vital trade routes. Through these calculated connections, Tamar transformed Georgia from a regional power into a pivotal player on the world stage, proving that the quiet conversations beneath the surface can reshape the entire landscape. A tree communicates with its environment through a silent language of chemical signals, releasing scents and compounds that warn, attract, or repel. Queen Tamar's Georgia broadcasted its own powerful signals to the world, using a sophisticated language of culture, faith, and military might to project an unmistakable message of supremacy. The most vibrant signal was the unprecedented flourishing of culture known as the Georgian Renaissance. Tamar's court was not just a center of power, but a beacon of learning and artistry. She was a patroness of letters, fostering a climate where philosophy, theology, and literature thrived. This era produced the crown jewel of Georgian literature, Shota Rustaveli's epic poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin. Dedicated to Tamar herself, this work was more than just a masterpiece of romance and chivalry. It was a signal of a sophisticated, confident, and uniquely Georgian Christian civilization, broadcasting its cultural richness to the world. Another powerful signal was sent through stone and fresco. Under Tamar, the construction and adornment of churches and monasteries reached an apogee. Grand complexes like Vardzia, a city carved from a cliff face, were declarations of immense wealth and profound piety. Georgian-funded monasteries in Jerusalem, Constantinople, and on Mount Athos acted as cultural embassies, signaling the kingdom's role as a leader and protector of the Orthodox Christian faith. Yet, the most potent signals were often the chemical warnings delivered by her armies. Under the command of David Soslan and the formidable Makargadzeli brothers, Zakhare and Ivane, the Georgian military became the most dominant force in the region. The decisive victory at the Battle of Shamkor in 1195, and again at Basian in 1202, saw Georgian forces shatter powerful Muslim coalitions. These were not merely defensive wins. They were overwhelming triumphs that sent a clear, sharp signal across the Near East. The Kingdom of Georgia was unchallengeable. Through this multifaceted language, the beauty of its art, the devotion of its faith, and the sharp edge of its steel, Tamar's reign communicated a clear and enduring message of a golden age. The mightiest trees do not stand alone. They thrive through a symbiotic relationship with vast fungal networks that channel nutrients and enhance resilience. Queen Tamar's power was similarly magnified by the symbiotic alliances she forged with the two most powerful forces in her kingdom, the Georgian Orthodox Church and the loyal high nobility. These were the fungi and friends that helped her golden age flourish. The Georgian Orthodox Church was the primary partner in this symbiosis. The relationship was profoundly intertwined and mutually beneficial. The crown, under Tamar, was the church's greatest protector and benefactor, endowing it with vast lands, wealth, and tax exemptions. In return, the church provided the monarchy with its ultimate source of legitimacy. It was the Catholicos Patriarch who officially crowned Tamar, anointing her with divine authority and promoting the narrative of the Bagrationi dynasty as chosen by God. The church's ideological support unified the nation behind the throne, sanctifying Tamar's wars as holy endeavors and framing her as a righteous Christian ruler. This spiritual authority was an unbreakable shield for her temporal power. Her friends were the great noble houses she successfully bound to her cause. While her reign began with challenges from the aristocracy, Tamar proved adept at transforming potential rivals into steadfast allies. She cultivated loyalty through patronage, granting high titles, military commands, and vast estates to families like the Makargadzeli. The success of these nobles became intrinsically linked to the success of the queen. They were not merely her subjects, they were partners in the imperial project. In exchange for their loyalty and military service, they gained immense prestige and wealth, governing vast territories on her behalf. This system created a formidable, unified structure. When a threat emerged, the church would rally the populace, and the loyal nobles would muster their personal armies to join the royal forces, creating a single, powerful organism. This symbiosis fueled every aspect of the Golden Age, from military expansion to cultural patronage, proving that Tamar's greatest strength was not in ruling over her kingdom, but in growing with it. In the arid, rugged landscapes of the Caucasus, water is more than sustenance. It is life, power, and prosperity. For Queen Tamar of Georgia, the lifeblood of the kingdom flowed not just through its rivers, but through a complex man-made circulatory system of commerce and infrastructure. This was the kingdom's hydraulic marvel, an intricate network engineered to channel wealth and influence from the far corners of the known world into the heart of her realm. The water-bearers of this age were not peasants with clay pots, but merchants with loaded caravans, diplomats with royal decrees, and engineers with ambitious blueprints. Under Tamar's guidance, Georgia transformed itself into a critical artery connecting east and west, a vital link between the Byzantine world, the Persianate empires, and the burgeoning Rus to the north. Roads were carved through treacherous mountain passes, once the domain of bandits, and secured by a chain of fortified garrisons. Grand caravanserais, stone sanctuaries for traders and their precious cargo, rose from the dust, offering safe haven and a place to exchange goods, ideas, and news. This system was meticulously regulated. Tamar's administration standardized weights, measures, and most importantly, currency. The Georgian dirham, struck with Tamar's name and Christian symbols, became a trusted medium of exchange far beyond the kingdom's borders, a testament to its economic stability and power. This flow of commerce was the kingdom's pulse. It brought silks from China, spices from India, furs from the north, and knowledge from Constantinople and Baghdad. In return, Georgia exported its own treasures: wine, metalwork, horses, and textiles. This constant influx of wealth funded the armies that guarded the frontiers, financed the construction of cathedrals that reached for the heavens, and supported the poets and scholars who defined the Golden Age. It was a self-reinforcing cycle of power and prosperity, a perfectly calibrated machine where every road, every coin, and every trade agreement was a channel directing the vital waters of commerce to nourish the roots of a flourishing civilization. If the flow of trade was the water that nourished the kingdom, then the reign of Queen Tamar was the sun that allowed its culture to blossom. Like photosynthesis converting light into life, this era of unprecedented peace and stability was transformed into a vibrant explosion of intellectual and artistic energy. At the heart of this cultural synthesis was Tamar's court, a center of patronage that drew the brightest minds of the age. It was here that the raw energy of prosperity was woven into the enduring fabric of Georgian identity. The most brilliant product of this process was Shota Rustaveli's epic poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin. More than just a story, it was a philosophical treatise for the era, a mirror reflecting the ideals of Tamar's court: chivalry, unwavering loyalty, the equality of men and women, and a sophisticated Neoplatonism that blended Christian ethics with worldly humanism. Rustaveli's masterpiece became the cornerstone of Georgian literature, a testament to a culture that valued wisdom and beauty as much as military might. But this cultural flourishing extended far beyond poetry. Monasteries like Vardzia, Galati, and Ikalto became bustling academies of learning, where theology, philosophy, and science were studied with fervor. Georgian scholars translated classical Greek texts, engaged in complex theological debates with their Byzantine counterparts, and developed their own unique philosophical traditions. The walls of newly built churches and cave monasteries were covered in breathtaking frescoes, their vibrant colors and expressive figures creating a distinct Georgian style of iconography. This was not mere imitation of Byzantine art, but a confident evolution of it, infused with a local spirit and a profound sense of national pride. Under the sun of Tamar's reign, Georgia did not just consume culture from its powerful neighbors. It synthesized, innovated, and created its own, converting the light of peace into a lasting legacy of art, faith, and thought that would illuminate the nation for centuries to come. The cultural photosynthesis of Tamar's golden age could only occur within a protected garden, shielded from the harsh elements of a violent and unpredictable world. Surrounding Georgia was a landscape of ambitious rivals. The waning but still dangerous Seljuk successor states, the Atabegs of Azerbaijan, and the Sultanate of Rum. To the south, the mighty Ayyubid dynasty was on the rise. In this hostile world, the kingdom's survival and prosperity depended entirely on its guardians, the formidable Georgian army. Under Tamar, the military was not just a blunt instrument of conquest. It was a highly organized, professional, and fiercely loyal force that formed the bedrock of her power. At its core was the Monaspa, the elite royal guard, supplemented by feudal levies from the powerful noble houses. But Tamar's strategic innovation was her increasing reliance on a standing army of Kipchak and Alan mercenaries, warriors of the steppe whose cavalry skills were legendary. This gave the crown a powerful force independent of the often fickle aristocracy. Leading these armies were some of the most brilliant military minds of the era, most notably the Makargrzeli brothers, Zakaria and Ivane. They were the architects of Georgia's military dominance, leading campaigns that expanded the kingdom's influence across the Caucasus and into Anatolia and northern Iran. Key victories, such as the Battle of Shamkor in 1195 and the Battle of Basian in 1202, were not just triumphs of brute force, but of superior strategy and discipline. The Georgian army, a multi-ethnic force united under the banner of the cross and loyalty to Tamar, consistently defeated larger enemy forces through clever tactics, surprise maneuvers, and the sheer fighting spirit of its soldiers. This military shield did more than just protect the borders. It created a vast buffer zone of vassal states, turning former enemies into tributaries. It secured the trade routes that were the kingdom's economic lifeblood. This impenetrable defense allowed poets to write, monks to pray, and merchants to travel in peace, ensuring the Golden Age was not a fleeting moment, but a sustained era of unparalleled security and growth. A great forest is more than a collection of individual trees. It is a single, interconnected organism, linked by a hidden network of roots, sharing resources and communicating in ways unseen. So too was the Kingdom of Georgia under Queen Tamar. Her reign cultivated not just a powerful state, but a collective consciousness, a unified national identity that pulsed with a single steady heartbeat. Tamar herself was the heart of this great organism. Elevated to the status of a holy ruler, a warrior queen blessed by God, she became the living symbol of Georgia's destiny. The struggles of her early reign, where she asserted her authority over rebellious nobles, were crucial in establishing the primacy of the crown. Once consolidated, her power became the central point around which the nation organized itself. Loyalty to Tamar was synonymous with loyalty to Georgia itself. This shared identity was deeply intertwined with the Georgian Orthodox Church. The church was the mycelial network of this national forest, its teachings and traditions connecting every village, every fortress, and every soul to a common faith and a shared history. Tamar's piety and her generous patronage of the church reinforced this bond. By building cathedrals, endowing monasteries, and defending Christendom, she positioned Georgia as the holy bastion of the faith in the East, a sacred kingdom with a divine mission. This sense of shared purpose permeated every level of society. It fueled the courage of the soldiers on the battlefield, who fought not just for a monarch, but for their faith and their homeland. It inspired the masons who built the churches and the artists who adorned them. It was reflected in the chronicles of the era, which celebrated the unity of the Georgian people under their beloved King of Kings and Queen of Queens. This was the true, enduring marvel of the Golden Age, the forging of a soul. It was the creation of a collective belief in Sakartvelo, Georgia, as a single, indivisible, and exceptional nation, a unified heartbeat that would sustain its people through the darkest centuries that were yet to come. For any monarchy, the question of succession is the central, animating anxiety. A kingdom without a clear heir is a body without a future, vulnerable to internal decay and external predators. For Queen Tamar, this biological imperative was fused with the destiny of Georgia itself. The art of reproduction was not merely a personal matter. It was the highest form of statecraft. The initial attempt to secure the dynasty was a calculated political maneuver. At the insistence of her court, Tamar was married to the Rus's prince, Yuri Bogolyubsky. This union, however, proved to be a barren and bitter one. Yuri's brutish character and political ambition clashed violently with the sophisticated Georgian court and Tamar's own formidable will. The marriage produced no heir and ended in a dramatic divorce and Yuri's exile. It was a failure, a political seed scattered by a harsh wind, unable to take root. Yet this wind also cleared the path for a truer, more fruitful union. Tamar's second marriage, to the Alan Prince David Soslan, was a different matter entirely. A skilled military commander and a man she genuinely respected and loved, David became not just her consort, but her partner in rule. From this union, the kingdom's prayers were answered. In 1191, the royal flower bloomed with the birth of a son and heir, George, later known as Lasha Georgi. A daughter, Rusudan, would follow. The dynasty was secure. The pollen of the Bagrationi line had successfully found fertile ground, promising a new generation of rule. This dynastic security was the bedrock upon which the Golden Age truly flourished. With the question of succession settled, the kingdom's energies could be directed outward. The winds that once carried away a failed prince now carried the pollen of Georgian influence, culture, and power across the Caucasus, planting the seeds of new alliances and spreading the story of a kingdom thriving under its mighty queen. Securing an heir is but the first step. Cultivating a worthy successor is the arduous journey that follows. The children of Tamar and David Soslan, George and Rusudan, were not merely children. They were living seeds containing the entire future of the Georgian kingdom. Their upbringing was a matter of national importance, a careful process of nurturing designed to produce rulers capable of inheriting the Golden Age. Tamar, herself a product of a rigorous royal education, oversaw their development personally. Young George, the heir apparent, would have been immersed in the arts of war and governance from the moment he could walk and talk. He would have studied under the finest theologians, learning the deep-rooted importance of the Orthodox faith to his nation's identity. He would have trained with veteran generals, learning strategy and leadership not just from scrolls, but on the training grounds and in military councils. His sister Rusudan would have received an equally sophisticated education in diplomacy, history, and the arts, preparing her for her role as a powerful princess in a complex political world. But Tamar's foresight went beyond mere education. She understood that power is best transferred not as a sudden inheritance upon death, but as a gradual assumption of responsibility. In 1207, in a masterful political move, Tamar officially elevated her teenage son to the status of co-ruler. This was the ultimate act of planting the seed directly into the soil of power. By ruling alongside his mother, Lasha Georgi was not just learning theory. He was engaging in the practical, day-to-day reality of kingship. He was witnessing firsthand the delicate dance of managing powerful nobles, the gravity of judicial decisions, and the complex web of foreign policy. This co-regency ensured a seamless, stable transition, minimizing the risk of a power vacuum or succession crisis. It was Tamar's promise to her people that the journey of the next generation was being guided by a steady hand, ensuring the kingdom's vibrant legacy would long outlive its celebrated queen. No rain, no matter how golden, is without its harsh winters. The story of Tamar's Georgia is not one of unbroken sunshine, but of resilience through brutal seasons of change, of surviving periods of dormancy to achieve a powerful rebirth. The most severe storm came from a ghost of the past, her exiled first husband, Yuri Bogolyubsky. Consumed by ambition and a thirst for revenge, Yuri returned to Georgia not once, but twice, to challenge Tamar's throne. He became a rallying point for a faction of disgruntled nobles, those who chafed under Tamar's strong, centralized rule. His invasions plunged the kingdom into the bitter chill of civil war. This was a season of dormancy, where the nation's energy was turned inward, a violent struggle pitting Georgian against Georgian. The kingdom's very foundations were tested. Yet, from this harsh winter came a vibrant spring of renewal. The majority of the Georgian aristocracy, led by loyal and brilliant commanders like the brothers Zachariah and Ivan Makargrzeli, remained fiercely loyal to their queen. They rallied the armies, met the rebels on the field, and decisively crushed the insurrections. Yuri was defeated and exiled once more, this time for good. The rebirth that followed was profound. By surviving this internal challenge, Tamar's authority was not just restored, it was immeasurably strengthened. She had faced down rebellion and emerged victorious, proving the depth of her support and the strength of her state. Her throne was now more secure than ever before. This cycle of challenge and response became a defining feature of her era. External raids were met with powerful counteroffensives that expanded Georgia's borders. The death of her beloved husband and co-ruler David Soslan around 1207 was a deep, personal winter for the queen. Yet she continued to rule with undiminished wisdom and strength, guiding her kingdom through its seasons of loss and ensuring its continued growth. A forest is more than its tallest tree. Its true strength lies in the deep roots and ancient sentinels that form its foundation. The golden age of Georgia did not spring from a vacuum. It was built upon the formidable, old-growth institutions that Queen Tamar inherited, nurtured, and commanded with profound wisdom. The first and most ancient of these sentinels was the Georgian Orthodox Church. Its roots were intertwined with the very soul of the nation, a powerful force for cultural unity and spiritual identity. Tamar, a devout ruler, understood its importance implicitly. She was a great patron of the church, funding the construction of magnificent monasteries and churches and commissioning the timeless frescoes that still adorn their walls. The grand, rock-hewn city of Vardzia stands as an eternal testament to this partnership between crown and faith, a sentinel of stone and spirit, guarding Georgia's soul. Another pillar of the realm was the powerful, landed aristocracy. Like the giant trees of an old-growth forest, these noble houses were essential to the kingdom's structure, providing military might and regional governance. They could also, however, cast long shadows of rivalry and ambition. Tamar's political genius lay in her ability to manage this complex ecosystem, balancing their power, rewarding loyalty, and decisively checking dissent. She harnessed their strength for the good of the kingdom, ensuring these ancient trees supported her rule rather than challenged it. The kingdom was further guarded by the sentinels of law and military tradition. The established legal codes provided a stable framework for justice and commerce, while the Georgian army, led by seasoned generals and steeped in a proud warrior tradition, was the unbreachable wall that protected the realm and projected its power. Above all these, Queen Tamar herself had become a sentinel. She was the living embodiment of the wisdom of the Bagrationi dynasty, the focal point where all the ancient strengths of Georgia converged, guiding her kingdom with a vision that transformed it into a legend. The Georgian kingdom under Queen Tamar was not merely a state, it was a living, breathing ecosystem, and she was its great world tree, the central axis upon which a universe of life depended. Her reign, the undisputed golden age, saw the nation flourish with a complexity and vibrancy that was the envy of the known world. Like a colossal oak, her roots dug deep into the bedrock of Georgian identity and Orthodox faith, drawing strength and stability. Her trunk, the monarchy itself, was strong and unyielding, providing the core structure for the realm. From this core, her branches spread wide, offering shelter and sustenance to a remarkably diverse population. Under the canopy of her rule, Georgians, Armenians, Alans, Muslims, and Jews coexisted, each a unique species contributing to the health of the whole. The sprawling limbs of her kingdom were adorned with the brilliant foliage of cultural achievement. Monasteries like Vardzia, carved into the very cliffs of the earth, were not just places of worship, but bustling centers of learning and art, the vibrant flowers of this great tree. Down the Silk Road, which ran like a life-giving river through her lands, flowed trade and ideas, nourishing the ecosystem with wealth and knowledge from distant lands. The fruits of this era were legendary, none more so than Shota Rustaveli's epic poem, The Knight in the Panther's Skin, a work that captured the chivalric and philosophical spirit of the age. And protecting this world within a world was the thick, formidable bark of Tamar's army. Led by brilliant generals like the Zakarian brothers, her forces defended the kingdom from pests and predators, ensuring the delicate balance of the ecosystem remained undisturbed. Every aspect of life, from the smallest village to the grandest court, was interconnected, a complex web of dependencies all sustained by the singular, powerful presence of the queen, the life-giving tree at the center of it all. But even the mightiest tree is not immune to the slow creep of decay, the insidious spread of disease from both within and without. As Tamar's reign entered its later years, the first signs of stress began to appear on the magnificent structure of her kingdom. The constant pressure of external threats acted like a persistent drought, sapping the realm's strength. The Sultanate of Rum and other Seljuk successor states were relentless pests, gnawing at the borders, forcing the kingdom's resources to be perpetually diverted to defense. This endless warfare, though often victorious, left scars on the bark and began to exhaust the deep reserves of energy the kingdom possessed. More dangerous, however, was the disease that began to fester within. The return of her disgraced first husband, Yuri Bogolyubsky, was like a parasitic fungus, sparking two costly rebellions that forced Tamar to cut away parts of her own nobility. This internal rot revealed a growing weakness: the ambitions of powerful feudal lords. Once sturdy branches supporting the crown, some now sought to grow towards their own light, challenging the central authority and creating deep fissures within the court. These intrigues and power struggles were a cancer in the heartwood, weakening the tree from the inside. The queen herself, the heart of the ecosystem, was not ageless. The immense burden of rule, the personal betrayals, and the constant vigilance took their toll. Her own mysterious illness in the final years of her reign mirrored the slow sickness afflicting her empire. The golden leaves of the Golden Age, while still brilliant, were beginning to show the faintest tinges of autumn. On the distant eastern horizon, a storm was gathering, a new and terrifying blight known as the Mongols. Though they would not arrive in force until after her death, their shadow was beginning to stretch across the steppes, a premonition of the fire that would one day threaten the entire forest. In the year 1213, the great tree that had sheltered a nation for nearly 3 decades began to tremble. Queen Tamar, weakened by a sudden and severe illness, finally succumbed. The fall of this giant was not a silent collapse into the forest floor. It was a thunderous crash that echoed through the Caucasus and beyond, shaking the world she had so carefully cultivated. The nation was plunged into a profound and desperate grief. The canopy that had protected them from the harshest sun and the most violent storms was gone, leaving them feeling exposed and vulnerable. Her death was shrouded in the same regal mystery that had defined much of her life. Fearing that her enemies would desecrate her remains, her loyal subjects ensured her final resting place was a closely guarded secret. Legends tell of multiple coffins sent out from her castle in different directions, her true tomb hidden away, perhaps within the hallowed halls of the Galati Monastery or some other sacred ground, forever safe. But when a giant tree falls, it does not simply vanish. Its decay enriches the very soil from which it grew. Tamar's legacy became this life-giving humus, a foundation for future growth. She left behind her 2 children, George Thorlasha and Rusudan, to carry on her line, saplings that would now have to face the elements without her shade. More importantly, she left behind a solidified Georgian identity, a culture at its zenith, and a political framework that was the most powerful in the region. Her canonization by the Georgian Orthodox Church as Holy Righteous King Tamar transformed her from a mortal ruler into an eternal spiritual guardian. The fallen giant became a sacred relic, her memory a wellspring of national pride and divine protection. Her story was no longer just history, it was scripture, a testament to a golden past and a promise of future resilience. The fall of a single giant, however noble, does not spell the end of the forest. Often, it is the catalyst for a new, more resilient cycle of life. The clearing left by Tamar's death exposed her kingdom to the harsh realities of a changing world. Just a few years later, the storm that had been gathering on the horizon broke with unimaginable fury. The Mongol invasions swept through Georgia like a wildfire, consuming everything in their path. The kingdom Tamar had built was scorched, its armies shattered, its cities sacked, and its independence lost. The saplings she had left behind, George IV and Rusudan, struggled valiantly, but were ultimately bent and broken by the hurricane-force winds of the invasion. To an outside observer, it would seem the forest was dead, reduced to ash and charred stumps. But the fire could not reach the roots. The deep, powerful root system that Tamar had nurtured, a shared faith, a common language, a powerful cultural memory, and the epic of Rustaveli, survived the inferno. In the centuries of hardship that followed, through Persian, Ottoman, and Russian domination, Georgians looked back to the reign of Tamar as a source of inextinguishable hope. Her era was not just a memory, but a blueprint for national identity and sovereignty. She became the ultimate symbol of Georgia's potential for greatness, the proof that the forest could and would grow back. Her story was told and retold, a constant reminder that they were the descendants of a mighty and glorious kingdom. New trees began to sprout from the enriched soil, tougher and more resilient for having endured the flames. The eternal forest of the Georgian nation survived because of the legacy of its greatest tree. Tamar's golden age became the seed bank from which the nation would draw its strength for every future rebirth, ensuring that even after the most devastating fires, life would always return.